Let's Chat About It is a thought-provoking podcast where your hosts Lenora Sneva and Max Brown engage in meaningful conversations with everyday individuals about the pivotal moments when they realized they were different. Tune in every Friday for fresh, inspiring videos that delve into personal narratives exploring the diverse journeys of self-discovery. From childhood revelations to adulthood epiphanies, each episode is a celebration of the diverse paths that shape our identities. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform inviting you to connect with others through storytelling.
All right, welcome back to Let's Chat About It. Lenora Sneva with Max Brown. We've got Vicky coming on. She's a friend of a friend. So excited for you to hear her story. Max, what's the question of the day?
So I was thinking about this. We had our youngest is 4. She just had tonight her first soccer game.
Okay.
And I was the coach. And so my question to you, Lenora, as I know a fellow sports parent, if you could go back like to any time for your girls and do like one more season of sports, the specific sport, the specific age, what would you relive?
I would go back. I coached my girls in volleyball, like through the Y rec ball for a couple of years before they went to club volleyball. So I'd probably go back.
Like middle school or?
No, grade school.
Grade school. Okay.
Like, yeah, second grade or something like that. So I would go back and teach them better fundamentals.
Not for the experience, but like we could have gone. We could have been all Americans.
I think I could have did a better job, and it was fun. It was just fun coaching them. You know.
Yeah. Do you have like a specific? I'm 4-year-old soccer it's an adventure.
No, it's fun.
I'm coaching. They're so cute. They're just like.
They don't know which way they're going.
No. We had a couple kids tonight. It was like, oh, this isn't your first rodeo. Nobody got kicked in the face, so that's a good. That's a big win. But yeah, no, it's like I kind of like it too because if you got parents who are like they're 4, we're just here to like give them some fun and like get some energy out, which is thankfully the parents I have. It's like. Yeah, I could do this. I don't mind herding cats and just being patient and watching kids. I think the thing for me, especially when I like the young ages where it's like the goal is just you had a goal this season. You scored a basket. You did one thing awesome that you go, I want to do that again. And I had fun with it. Like that's kind of where I'm at. It's just at this age, it's like just have enough fun that you want to try it again next season. And so I don't mind this age at all.
And parents chill out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is our public service announcement for the night. Parents, chill out.
All right. Let's bring Vicky on. Let's meet Vicky and hear her story.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Let's Chat About. We've got Vicky here. Vicky, it's so nice to see you again. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live here in University Place, Washington. I moved from Seattle about 1.5 years ago, where I was for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
That's how I met our mutual friend, Jen Wen.
Okay.
She's definitely a bestie for sure. And before that, I spent a year as an exchange student in the Netherlands, my senior year of high school. And then previous to that, I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Okay, awesome. Did you go to high school in Hawaii then?
I did.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's awesome.
I gotta know. Sorry, quick question. Seattle's large. What neighborhood were you in or did you bounce around for those 3 years?
I did bounce around. I lived on Finney Ridge. I lived in the U District, Central District. Was the last place that I lived. Also in Magnolia for a while.
Okay, and if you had to go back, what neighborhood would you choose?
That's an interesting question because. There was something about Magnolia that just in general, the culture wasn't a good fit for me. I love the diversity of the Central District, but this is what I found was that my closest friends that I met as an adult in Seattle, I would say I found in Magnolia. And the reason why I think I hypothesized that was the case was when you found someone who was a little bit outside the norms, you held to them real close, not to let go.
Yeah. Gotcha. Love it.
I had a question about Hawaii. What part of Hawaii are you from?
So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, on the island of Oahu. This might be interesting to everyone. So I was, middle class growing up. My parents were both employees of the state. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, that was middle class. You could have a decent life for yourself in Hawaii. Every Sunday, we would go to my great grandmother's house. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jurassic Park was filmed where my great grandmother lived. She basically lived in the jungle.
Oh my goodness.
That's so cool.
In a little shack. Most of the walls were open. We had like windows that did not exist. They were just wide open. There was one room that was closed. It had screens. That was the living quarters, but the kitchen was open to the elements. The living room was open to the elements, and the extended family would go there every Sunday.
Wow. Okay, I got to know though. Is she making a meal for everybody?
The whole family came together.
Okay.
And we would cook together. There was an outdoor bathhouse that we would go in as family groups. So you would take a family bath together. And in order for the water to get warm, we basically had to stoke a fire underneath the bathhouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that place still there?
It is not. House? It got blown down by a hurricane in the 80s.
Oh okay.
Man. Wow.
Some nice memories. Do you have pictures? Yeah. Do you have any pictures of that?
Just a couple of photos. I mean, it was just one of those places that we lived, right? Back then we didn't have cameras at the ready. So we have a couple of photos. My parents had a friend who was a photographer, and he took a few photos of the house. But yeah, there's not a lot left from that house.
Wow. Sounds like you had some nice memories there.
We did. Yeah. We were feral.
So tell us about your story when you first knew you were different. What was happening for you?
So I have a question to ask you guys.
Okay.
Because that will inform how I answer that question. Tell me about who your intended audience was when you first started doing this podcast. Let's chat about it. And then tell me about who your audience is today and who you would want listening to the podcast.
These are really good questions.
These are all for Lenora. I'm just here for
right? I think when I first thought about the podcast, I thought this would be a nice opportunity for everyone to hear each other's stories. I was thinking about, in particular, white people, because I thought it would be an opportunity for them to, if they didn't have any friends that looked different than them, that have a different lived experience, that maybe if they saw the podcast and they heard the stories of what mostly like people of color went through, that they might have some empathy, they might have a change of heart, they might see something that was like, oh, wow, I've had some stereotypes that I've been holding on to that I need to let go. I think when I look at the data for our podcasts based on like YouTube, seems like it's like kind of the 35 to 50 age range is our biggest group of people that look. I don't know what their race is. It doesn't give me that data. And I think if I think about who I want to listen to now, I'd say everybody. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just for everybody. I think everyone can get something out of everyone's story. There's something that will touch your heart if you just are willing.
Yeah. I think and I think I would just add, in the stories and the experiences that we share with our guests, it really is like, sometimes we're talking about what it's like to be a parent. Sometimes we're talking about what does it look like to be a Black woman growing up in the early 2000s. Sometimes we're talking about, lived experience and family trauma. Like there's just all kinds of there. I don't think we've hit so many different demographics and categories that I think, to Lenora's point, it's kind of weird to say like the target demographic is everybody, but it really has there hasn't really been any limits to the stories that people have shared. And but I would like your vision, Lenora, that you just shared about who you initially intended. That's why I wanted to be a part of this and to support you in this journey, is how do we help people connect to folks that they especially like in Washington, right? It's pretty homogenous. And so the ability to connect with people that they might not rub shoulders with on a regular basis, and to really humanize folks and not just say, oh, that's so somebody is a stereotype that I'm going to hold on to. That's the demographic. This is the story. That's all that they are. But to help understand the story behind the person, I think has been really, it's been impactful for me. And I think it also helps you connect to realize, oh, that sounds a lot like my journey, or I have a similar, we did that. There was a similar thing. And I think it does help create, even though it's online, even though we're not all in the same room, it does create a sense of community that I think is missing from our culture, especially coming out of COVID.
Thank you.
Yeah, a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's buying. Lenora, my seat's getting hot. I think you might be looking at a new co-host, but now you have to answer our question.
Yes, so I have listened to a couple of the episodes that you've put out, and they're all so different. It took me a little bit to kind of think about that question. I mean, I'm in my early 50s. So I'm old. And I think I've known that I've been a little different for a long time. However, the way that I think about it was, I think I was told a lot that I was different, more than I felt different. Growing up in Hawaii, even though I looked at that time like the majority of the population, I felt not the same, because I didn't like the beach. I was about this pale growing up in Hawaii. Yeah, I know, right? I didn't like being outdoors, even though I was out in the jungle every Sunday. I mean, the bug spray, like all of it. Like, I hate when my palms feel sweaty. Like, and it's even worse when I'm at the beach and my palms are sweaty and there's sand stuck to it. Like, no, thank you. I think that growing up, I had a really close-knit family, but there was some significant health issues in my my core family. So I'm an only child. My mother was diagnosed with lupus when she was in her 20s. And she had a cousin who had passed away of lupus in her early 20s and late teens, I believe. And so there was a lot of fear that she was going to pass away. And so I lived a good chunk of my life not feeling completely safe, even though, I would see him like my grandparents and my great-grandparents, and I was very close to them. I felt very protected by my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And my father is the kindest person you'd ever meet. And everybody loves my mother, but there was just an instability in terms of the health piece of it that just made things not super stable. And I think because of that, when you live in fear, and especially if you're a parent, because I'm a parent, I think that you can catastrophize things. And I think that's how it was in my household. And so being that my mother was a certain generation, being Asian American, there's a lot of catastrophizing of any behavior. So if I were to act a little bit out of the norm, then she would like imagine 15 years down the line that I was going to be this kind of person, right? I don't think that was malicious at all. And we have a very different relationship. My mother is strong like bull, but we never knew that growing up, right? We always thought, oh, she could pass away at any moment. So I think that, being told over and over again that I was different and that the way that it was behaving was out of the norm and meant like this horrible thing, I think, was how I knew I was different.
What are some of the things that, if you could share, that would cause your mom to think like, oh my goodness, if you keep doing this in 20 years.
Hard drugs, prison time.
Well, we won't talk about that time I got thrown in a trash can at preschool, or maybe we will.
No.
What?
What?
So I was
You don't drop that bomb and then just walk away.
I was a really curious kid. I think I still am a curious kid. And I was really fascinated about what happened to all of our food and all the, the plates and everything. Like, what happened to that when the kids were like rushed back to the classroom, right? And so I stayed out to kind of take a peek at what was going on. And apparently, I mean, this is the story that my parents tell. The janitors did not like that, and I was breaking the rules. And one of the janitors decided to put me in a trash can. And being a little kid, I'm short. I'm like 5 feet, so you can only imagine how tall I was in preschool. Like, I was not getting out of that trash can. So yeah, I mean,
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I get, it is.
And I'm assuming like this was, in a time when that was like, it seems like a reasonable consequence. And so he didn't lose his job and you saw him every day for the rest of preschool. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they would be so canceled.
Growing up in the 70s and 80s, like corporal punishment was just normal.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
Man, that's not a core memory at all.
It sounds like maybe too, like you might have had some anxiety, right? Like thinking about your mom, that she had lupus, and were you kind of anxious a little bit, like about her health, or was it just kind of in the back of your mind always and kind of nagging at you a little bit?
I didn't think about it that way. I don't think. Mm-hmm. I think like many a mother and daughter kind of relationship. Growing up, like when I was young, I'm gonna listen to whatever my mom says, right? I might have been a little nervous, but I don't know if I understood the context of what was being said to me.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older, because she was still around, I guess it didn't seem like that was an impending, looming thing, and so I would just get really angry about being told, I'm doing something wrong, or because I always thought, well, as long as I do well in school and I don't do drugs and I don't, do all the super bad things that we're seeing, communicated on 80s television, like I'm okay. And it didn't seem like that was okay. And I think that there was a lot of rage, and I'm still full of rage these days, but it's, channeled in very different, more effective ways.
Besides digging in trash.
I'm a little curious. Like, I guess I'm having a hard time sort of connecting the dots, Vicky. And so this might be sort of an assumption, but I'm
right.
So correct me and help me understand this. So you've got a mom who's got her own medical anxiety that's that's sort of spilling out into the family, which I'm assuming is because you'd also mentioned the catastrophizing of Vicky's doing X, 15 years down the road, it's going to be Y, and there's nothing I can do about it. And in my mind as a parent, I'm thinking, if I'm living in a day-to-day of, I don't know how long I have.
Right.
I bear a ton of responsibility for what's happening now because of what that means for my kids down the road, who I may not be able to be around to protect. But is that, I mean, what was that relationship? I don't know if that's kind of what was happening or what was around, but I'm kind of curious about sort of the intersection of the anxiety from your mom filling into the family, and then how that shows up in kind of the parenting and the catastrophizing. And maybe there's a specific example that sticks out to you of X happened, Y happened because of underlying issue. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious about how this played out.
I think what you're saying is that the way you might show up as a parent if you're ill would have been a little bit different. I think that
yes, sort of. Like if I had a fear that I might not be around in a few weeks or months,
right?
But I care deeply about my kids. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything possible with my time I have to set them up for success. And so the inverse would be if something's not going well, I have to correct it today because I may not get that chance in 5 years or in 10 years.
I think though, if you're feeling, really stressful because you don't know how long you have to live, then you can't be that good at thinking ahead, right? You're just going to live in that space of
Fear and reaction.
flights,
Right,
freeze, like all of these things, right? And I think that's what was happening, and it was a very different generation, right? My parents got married in 1969. They had me in 72, and so both of my parents are Japanese American. For them, the rules like are like you follow the rules, and even worse, as a coming from Japanese culture, you don't necessarily get told what the rules are. You have to read the room. You read the room. You understand the rules by what's not being said, and you follow them without question. And obviously, I question a lot.
Can you? I've never heard of that. You need to know the rules, but you're not told the rules, so you just kind of have to read the room. Can you give an example of how that kind of played out in your life? Maybe a specific instance.
I don't know if I could give you an instance in my life that would communicate the intricacies of the culture. The thing I joke about is during COVID, there was an amusement park in Japan. And obviously, they didn't want people to be spreading COVID. And so they had, the headlines about this rule at this amusement park went global because it seems so odd, but it encapsulates the culture of Japan. And what it said was the rules during COVID at this amusement park was if you were to be on a roller coaster, you can't scream out loud, but instead, please scream inside your heart.
Oh. Keep it in.
I mean, it's so perfectly said, honestly. So, I mean, really, that's what it is. You whatever feelings you might have, those are suppressed. You don't show
they're for
that.
you and you alone.
You don't communicate it, right? So when I look at my parents, I look at my mother especially, she didn't have the tools to communicate what she was feeling, nor did she understand what she was feeling necessarily. And so I have a lot of empathy for that now that she's in her 70s and I'm in my 50s and I'm also a parent, right? But it took a long time for that to happen. And she's definitely, grown and changed as well over the time. But yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Does she still live in Hawaii, or does she?
Yeah, my parents still live in Hawaii. They come up here often. I'm an only child and have their only grandchild. So
Yeah.
You hold the strings.
I do.
I'm just so excited that she's alive. Like when you said that, because I didn't know. And
I think she'll outlive all of us.
That's funny. What do you do now for a living, Vicky? What do you do?
So I joke, I say I'm a status quo saboteur, a grower of pies, an extender of table. Wherever I am, I ask questions and I bring people into the fold. I love collaborating. I love building ecosystems. So I have small business. I have a nonprofit that I co-founded with my old boss at Microsoft. I do a lot of things.
Wow. Is it kind of a consulting company that you run, or?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I fall back a lot on the fact that like most of my life has been in technology. And so I do a lot of, consulting work with businesses in tech. I don't love it. I don't. But it's a way to enable me to do my social justice work.
Ooh. Can you tell us a little bit about your social justice work that you love so much?
Yeah, so I had a nonprofit called Build Justly that I co-founded with my old boss at Microsoft. We saw that technology itself was actually creating barriers. Well, we thought it would be building bridges. And so we're trying to address that in systemic ways. So there's a lot of activities and they seem very disparate, but they all kind of build up together. And then I use that in the work that I do in digital equity. So I've kind of found my way to the digital equity work that's being done in Pierce County and kind of nudged my way in, kind of sat in the back a little bit for a while and tried to read the room and then insert myself where I thought was appropriate. So
and then you screamed out loud.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of your nonprofit again?
Build Justly.
Okay. Awesome. I'll make sure I put a link to that in the show notes. That's so cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
What would you say to your younger self, Vicki? Is there anything that you would say to her?
I wanted to share something, and it is, I can kind of share in the context of what I would say to my younger self. I think that being told that you're different is really just a ruse, because I think we're all different and we're all trying to find our way. I think the people who say the loudest that you're different tend to be the ones that feel the most trapped. And I think that if I was talking to myself, I'd say like, it's your job will be, as you get older, it'll just come naturally to you to help those people who feel trapped to feel less trapped.
Wow. You seem there's a comfort in who you are. Like it seems like this is just who you've always been. It's like, no, I'm Vicki, and there's nothing, you can't do anything to shake that. And here I am. You're gonna have to find space for me. I love it. I appreciate your story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for joining us. If you ever want to come back with your business partner, that would be really interesting to kind of go into the work that you all do with your nonprofit also.
Yeah, I would love that. Chewie's got a big personality,
so bigger than Max?
Hey.
All right, Vicki, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to see you, Vicki.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was Vicki. That was so nice to hear her story.
It was. And I think that was one of those unique episodes where it's like there's so many different branches that you could kind of go off on. It was hard to figure it out. Like, imagine being one of her family members and going to dinner at her great grandma's house.
Right.
Like, that is an experience that I'm like, man, it's hard to even imagine, but it would be such a cool thing to experience.
I want a picture. I want to see it.
Yeah, seriously. I think that'd be phenomenal. And hopefully there's some dinosaurs in the background.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, I just love, I love that last statement too, of the people who are most loudly telling you that you are different are those that are likely most trapped. And yeah, I mean, I'm a believer that hurt people, and it's a lot of just our own projection of like, I don't like who I am, so I'm going to make you feel like you don't like who you are, because this is the only way I know how to really deal with stuff right now. So,
and they're done that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we'll see y'all next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lenora.
The Let's Chat About It video podcast, produced and edited by Lenora Sneva, invites listeners to share their stories. To participate, email letschatnow1010@gmail.com. New episodes featuring people like you and me are released every Friday. Thank you for listening and being a part of a community who cares. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Thanks for listening!